Hello again, students. Eric Magidson here. This is your introduction to Module 13, Module 2, Lesson 13. So if you notice, I did a little something different here. I've got the outcomes up here at the top instead of on the side, and then I've got my work area here, both using Microsoft Word. Now, if you notice, one thing I want to show you is that the ribbon, as they call it, is disappeared or is gone. I want to show you how to do that because in this case, I didn't need the ribbon taking up valuable screen space. So I'll show you how to do it on this instance of Word here. If I just do this and click on a tab one time, you notice that the ribbon comes up. So I could highlight this word live, come here to home and choose bold. And if you notice, it's now bolded. If I want the ribbon to stay permanently on the screen and watch how much space it takes up, I can double click any of these tabs. And if you notice, it's inserted into my workspace, my work area there. Okay, so we'll go ahead and leave it open down here because we're going to use it as we go through the material. So I'm going to do an undo. We'll talk about that in more detail here in a second. So delete and insert text using backspace and delete key. Well, certainly if I'm going to use the arrow key to get over here. If I'm right here in my sentence, I can use the backspace key to get rid of the word to, okay? And then, of course, retype it. I can also use the delete key. So if you notice, backspace is going to delete what's to the left of my cursor, and delete key is going to delete what is to the right. So there's the delete and insert key. Practice, practice. That's all you need. Now, here's the interesting thing. Insert and overtype modes. By default, and let me go ahead and make this bigger, okay, and move it over so you can see it. I'm using the control key and my wheel, by the way, to increase the size. So that's another way to increase the size. That was an outcome from the previous lesson. So here we have Bend is a place to live. Well, I want to say Bend is a wonderful place to live. So I'll put my insertion point there. And if you notice, I just start typing wonderful, and it moves everything over to the right so that wonderful has space. Some people find that they would rather have it do what's called overtype. And to turn on overtype mode, what we do is we come in here to File. We've been here before. We're in the Backstage, and we're going to go to Options. That's going to bring up our word options. We're going to go to the advanced section. And notice here, use the insert key to control overtype mode. Now, I think it's way back, maybe in 2007 version of Office, the insert key automatically did that. I'm going to go ahead and say, yes, use the insert key for overtype mode. Okay, so I'll say okay here. And I'm going to go ahead and use the backspace here. Let's see what happens if I type wonderful. It moves the text. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my instance of Word into overtype mode by hitting the insert key. Now as I start to type, it does exactly what you would expect given the name of the mode. It types over or overtypes where I'm at. So I really haven't found a use for this, but you should know that it exists. I'm going to hit that insert key again. That way I'm back in insert mode where I can say Bend is a place to wonderful live. My sentence didn't even make sense. It doesn't have to. Man, I am human today. All right, let's move on. So we've covered that first section there. Notice what happens when I come up here. I'm going to use the highlight. I can use the mini toolbar. I'm going to choose to click once here. I will highlight, click off. My ribbon goes away. So the undo, redo, and repeat actions. Well, first of all, let me come in here and say Bend is a wonderful place to live. There we go. Bend is a wonderful place to live. So there's my sentence. Now, undo and repeat. So let's say I come in here and say I don't want this adjective. So I'll double click on it and I'll hit the delete key. Uh-oh, it's gone. Well, there's a simple way to undo. And for me, the older I get, the more I seem to use this key. I can come up here, right up here. It's on the quick launch toolbar, and I can do undo. As you saw, I can also do Control Z. So if I delete and hit the Control Z, that is undo. So undo that, or I can redo, which takes it away because my last command was to delete the word wonderful. So undo and redo. So there we are. There's repeating actions. Now, if I've done a lot of actions, for example, I'm going to type in wonderful again. So this is again another action, and I'm going to go ahead and double click and delete place. I can come up and repeat some actions by choosing this down arrow, okay, and adding a command in there that gives me a history of these two so that I can select multiple commands that I've done. So something to just kind of keep in mind. Really have not found a huge use for it, but it's a way to, if I've done a sequence and I want to repeat that sequence for whatever reason, I can. But really, there's another way to repeat the most common sequence that we would do. Let me give you an example. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to just double click on bend. I'm going to use the toolbar. I'm going to make it red. I'm going to bold it, underline it. I'm going to italicize it. I'm going to change its font to something really cool. I've just done a lot of things to that. If I'm doing this throughout, say, a paper, I don't want to have to do those 5 things every single time. So what I would do is I would highlight the word or the character, whatever, that has all the formatting I want and hit the format painter one time. Then if I come over here and I highlight wonderful, it gives me the exact same format. If you notice now, though, my cursor has changed and I'm back to my insertion point. If I want to use that same format multiple times, let me undo this once, what I can do is highlight that format, 1, 2, hit the format painter twice, 1, 2, then, got to do it in quick succession. There we go. I can format this part, I can format this part, I'll format this part. So, how do I then get rid of it? Come up, click the format painter again, and I'm back to the regular insertion point. So there we are. Let's move on. We got that. I'll go ahead and highlight that. We're getting through this material, folks. So edit text using drag and drop editing and cut, copy, paste commands. All right. So I'm going to come back in here. I'm going to undo some commands so that I get back to that regular boring sentence. Edit text using drag and drop. So what I can do, let me go ahead and do this. I will take wonderful out of there and I will come down here and I will type in wonderful. Now what I can do is I can highlight that, drag it, and drop it where I want it to be. Now there was a carriage return. Let's see at the end of that. See, there was a carriage return there. That's why it brought that stuff down. So here's another example of, well, why did this come down here? Well, if I turn on the show hide, I see I had a carriage return in what I selected. So if I delete that, add that space, bing, bang, boom, I am back to what I would expect. I'm going to go ahead and delete that empty paragraph as well. So that's one way to do it. I can use, when I highlight wonderful, I can cut that, which is going to remove it, and put it in my clipboard. So at this point, I could come down here, use the default paste, and paste that object that was in my clipboard. Now realize I'm doing this with words. We can do this with objects. We can do this with drawings, pictures, graphics, you name it. We can cut that, put it on the clipboard. Okay. Now, some folks like to do this. They'll double click. They will copy instead of cut because that keeps that in place. But I want to come down here and add behind wonderful. I want to add the word place. So I've copied it from its existing location and I'm pasting it in. So there's that. Let's go ahead and do wonderful place. I'm going to grab to live here this time. I am going to go ahead and bold that and underline that and then copy it. So in this first sentence, I want it, Bend is a place to live. down here, I want the formatting to be the same as the existing formatting. So if you notice, if I come over here to paste, I get a few options. Let's look at these. Keep source formatting, merge formatting, or keep text only. In this case, I'm going to keep text only because I want that text to match the format of that sentence. So there is cut, copy, paste. How do we practice that? Well, pretty simple. We go ahead and give ourselves some content to practice with. Now, you might remember from the last thing, I said equals rand. I'm going to go ahead and do 5-6 this time. And as we can see here, let me go ahead and make this a little smaller so it all fits wonderfully on the page. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs each with 6 sentences. Now, what I want to do is use the find and replace. I find keyboard shortcuts to be easy, so Control F is my find. What do I want to find? I want to find the word keyword. So it'll find those words. It says there's 2 matches and it tells me where they are. I can see one on the screen. I like to use this because if I click on the other keyword, it'll take me down to the other instance of the keyword. So that's the find, okay? And then if we want to, we can also do it this way. So I'll come back to the top. I can come over here and do find. Now what's interesting about advanced find is it also has the replace function right in it. So I'm going to find the word keyword and I'm going to replace the instance of keyword with keys word. I know it doesn't make sense. It doesn't have to. Use your imagination here. So, matter of fact, you know what I'll do? I'll say that it should have been 2 words. So every place I typed keyword, replace it with key and word. Now, if I just hit the replace key, it's going to replace the first instance. In this case, I want to replace all of them. So I'll click replace all. It'll tell me that it made 2 replacements. You might remember from our find function that there was 2 instances of that word. So we have completed that. Now, huge pet peeve here. Using proofing tools to check and correct spelling and grammar. Okay, well, let me go in here. And here's the challenge with this. If I type WRD in a space, it doesn't know what word I meant to type. So it's pretty clear, hey, there might be an issue with this word right here, and indeed there is. So what I can do is I can right click over the word and it gives me options to say, is this what you expected to type? Was this what you expected to type? I'm going to say that was, and we're good to go. Okay. Now, the other reason it's coming up, let's take a look here. What's it saying? Oh, delete repeated words. So this time it's showing that the word, because it says word, is behind. It's saying, are you sure you meant to say word? Professionally produced word provides header, footer. Yes, we didn't. So we can right click and say delete repeated word. So spell checking, grammar, we want to make sure to do all that. We find those tools here in review. So we can run a spell check, and because we know this text is coming from the help file, we better not find some misspellings there. There's that. That's the spelling and grammar. If there's grammar errors, they're gonna show up as well. So grammar error might be, let me turn off this show hide, for example. It might be that it finds a misplaced parentheses, semicolon by its default, okay? So it thinks that that's okay. I know it's not. All right, so what does that bring us to? Well, that brings us to the fact that although we should use this tool, we can't always trust it to be correct. So make sure that you're still proofing your work, checking your spelling, checking your grammar. So change character format. Well, we've already done that in the fact that if I go to my home key here is fonts and character formats that we can do. So I'm going to just highlight the word POW in this case, and I'm going to change that to a red font. I'm going to italicize it, and I'm going to change its size and its font. So there's some examples of powerful use of character formats. That one's pretty easy, don't you think? All right, so moving on. Format paragraphs with line spacing, alignment, tabs, indents, and bulleted and numbered lists. Well, here's a great example. Let me come down here, and I'm going to type a bulleted list here. So I need from the store, I need apples, I need milk, I don't need mile, I need, I don't know, what else do I like from the store? Oh, eggs, there we go, and soy. So if you notice, I've got 4 things here, and if I highlight all 4, and I come up here to the paragraph section, and I bullet this list, I don't get what I expect. And I did this on purpose because what I want to show you is, again, you're going to hear this a lot from me. Use the show hide paragraph marks. So if you notice here, well, it says, well, behind here is some special character. This is actually called a new line. And the way I did that was shift enter versus enter. So I didn't get a new paragraph. I just stayed within the existing paragraph on a new line. So if I delete that and then hit the enter key, I get what I would expect. So in this case, it's bulleting based on the paragraph. That's how we bullet. And then, of course, if I said, you know what, I don't want this to be a bulleted list, I want it to be a numbered list, I can change that. I've got many styles of bullets here to choose from, and many styles of numbering. Now, we'll talk about outlines in more detail later. So, paragraphs with line spacing. So, as you can see here, if I highlight this paragraph, remember how to do that? It is a 1, 2, 3 click. I can then work on spacing for the paragraph. So in this case, 1.0, 1.5 here, 2.0, so double spacing. This is your report style, okay? Double spacing the paragraph. I also have, line spacing options that I can go into so that I can do spacing before, indentation, etc. Tabs and indents. So I'm going to do a separate video detailing more of tabs, but let me show you a quick tab. So if I wanted to indent this, I come this first word, the first line in the first paragraph, I just hit the tab key one time, and we can see that using the tab key that it tabbed in 1/2 inch. Okay, so that's tabs. Formatting, let me go ahead and double click this. Now, if I'm going too fast for you, which I may be, I tend to go quick with these first couple lessons because most people have these basics down already. If not, that's perfectly fine. Let's take a look. So, formatting document layouts with margins, settings, page orientation, etc. Let me make this smaller so we can see more of the page. There we go. Couple things to do. As you can see now, if I go into layout, my current page orientation is landscape as portrait. It's in the portrait mode. If I choose landscape, if you notice it's wide and then not as tall. So this is the 8.5 and this would be the 11. So 8.5 by 11 sheet that I've oriented landscape. Let's go back to portrait. Margins. Sometimes your teachers will say, I want a 1 by 1 by 1 inch margin. Well, if you notice, so that I had a lot of space, I already came in and changed my margins to the narrow 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. If I want 1 inch, I come up here, click on 1 inch overall, and I get 1 inch margins for my page. Now, I can do custom margins. So I can come down here, and I can say, you know what, the top should just be a 1/2 inch. The bottom should be a 1/2 inch. The sides should be 1 inch, and then gutter. So gutter would be, if I'm going to go ahead and put those 3 hole punches in there so I can put this in a notebook, I might add a 1/2 inch for that. So if I say okay, look what happens. My margin comes in 1.5 inches. My margin still stays at 1 inch, but I have this gutter area to put the 3-hole punches in. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Now, we'll talk more in detail on breaks, but I want to introduce you to the page break. So let's say that I have this page here, but I want to have some blank space for a picture or whatever. So right after this paragraph here, I want to start this next paragraph on the next page. Well, the way I do that, some of you are going, hey, Eric, just hit the enter key till it goes on the next page. Well, the challenge with that is if I want to start putting content in here, that's not going to work as easy. So let me undo that. I'm on the layout tab. I'm going to go to breaks and I'm going to apply a page break. Now, if you notice, it says mark the point at which one page ends and the next page begins. So I will click there. And because we have our show, hide, formatting, paragraph marks, all that good stuff on, I can see that there's a page break here. That's key, folks. Without that going on there, when I start typing, what? Wait, whoa, that's not what I wanted. Look, I was up here, type here. No. Well, why is it doing that? It's doing that because I've said, here is a page break. So it's not going to let me put anything below this, below the page break, in the way of typewritten words. Now, we're going to spend more time on page breaks, talking about all the different breaks here, because there are great tools here when you use breaks correctly. It really helps you format as you make changes to documents. You'll find it very useful. So we will talk about page breaks, we'll talk about section breaks, and understanding all of those in a future video. So here we are. We're going to go ahead and highlight this. Come up here. Look at all that we've completed. And we're done with this video. Y'all take care.